welcome along then to the Infinity GT Manufacturers Series. This is race number 2 live from St Croix. And we're about to get underway in the Group 4 machinery, and the lights out and away we go. So a short run down to the 90-degree left of turn 1. Will anyone get their braking point slightly askew for this one? Let's keep an eye. It looks like we've got a terrible camera angle here. Yeah, that camera angle was awful. I've missed all the action. So Aston Martin, McLaren all ding it into the wall after turn 1. Let's go back and have a quick look at that. Let's just jump on board with Sweaty Keg in the Aston Martin. He just brakes a little bit too late. Carries far too much speed into that, and as you can see, just sort of gets collected by McLaren, who does the same thing. Mental Nev then, followed by the Peugeot of TC Idle, who qualified very well. They are out in P1 and 2 respectively. Mental Nev did get away from the start very well. He did bog down quite a bit, but the Peugeot, a very good car in this category, one of the best in terms of actual speed, as it's just cocking its back leg up there like an aggravated cocker spaniel having a wee. Sweaty Keg down to P3. Then you got C-Trickle, a good outing from C-Trickle in the Hyundai in P4. Infinity Decals in the Toro Morto, P5 for him. Then we've got Surfer Ev, P6 in the McLaren. The McLaren should do better in this class. Group 4 should suit it nicely. You've got Tricky Tree in P7 getting swarmed then by the other American machines. Absolute mayhem here then down at the long scooping left-hander. Tricky Tree gets overtaken by SimFx in the Dodge, followed by James Harben, Ice Chand, Marshall 2012 and Iban backing up the field. So at the front then we've got Mental Nev, who during the week I was asking all the drivers to give me real names and a little bit of info about them, because I'm going to start building that into the commentary, and he's the only one that has remained anonymous so far, so I'm just going to call him Mental. So far the top 6 or 7 doing quite well. It looks like the Corvettes are struggling quite a bit here. We've got Spencer there in the leading Corvette, followed by Harben. These two guys are starting to struggle a little bit with the big heavy American V8s. They do sound lovely though. We've got Chand in P10 in the other McLaren. Lots of smoke there from Harben as he gets on the brakes nice and sharply. What else have we got going on through the field? Let's have a little thing. We've got C-Trickle here going for a move. No, he wasn't going for a move. It looked like he was, then he popped out of the slipstream. But Sweaty Keg for the time being is just about able to stay away. TC Idle then, aka Dan Bolden, he's doing quite well in P2. The Peugeot will start coming into its own. The only problem he's going to have with that car is its tyre wear. It does burn through its tyres a lot quicker than any other car on the grid, but it definitely has the pace to make up for it. As we see the Corvettes again getting that turn 1 quite wrong. They're going to start getting swallowed up by the other cars now. SimFx is starting to make his way ahead. As the car's now full of fuel, just have to take these this section of corners really cautiously. You'll notice I'm not in this race. At the time this race was going on, I was at a restaurant in Barnsley eating loads of steak. Oh, the two Corvettes come together. Harben and Spencer smash each other into the wall there. That's come off badly for Harben, who's down now into second to last position. Flaggered right down at the back then, P12, but looking to make a move on Harben, and that's Harben right down at the back of the grid now. Marshall looking to make a move on Chand, and the other McLaren. And the McLaren, a great straight line speed car, that's 7 gears. You can really rag that thing and it will work quite nicely. It grips quite well as well. Really nice and tidy front end. Spencer taking that Corvette to places it shouldn't really be. It does seem to be struggling here. And then we've got SimFx in the Dodge challenging Surfer Ev for that P6 spot and getting a few sparks off the wall in the process. Robinson then in the Toro Morto, just about hanging on to that lead group, comprising of Trickle, Sweaty Keg, Idle, TC Idle and Mental Nev. The top 4 starting to break away now. I do like the sound of that Supra. It's a really good GR4 car. We've actually seen the real life thing pretty much sounds exactly the same as that. So the Gran Turismo have done a really good job of modelling what was a non-existent car at the time, I think, so it's a really nice thing. Sweaty Keg having to defend to the Hyundai here, so the Aston Martin, the FR, not really working too well. It will struggle with a little bit of understeer, that, compared to a lot of the other cars. Very heavy front end, obviously representing Great Britain in the Dead Bull. TC Idol then going for the move. Looks like he's going to get this done then, going down into T1. That Hyundai does get its turning dealt with a lot nicer, but Sweaty Keg just about able to fend off the attentions there then. Oh, we just can't say Rexy because he smacks the wall. He's got Surfer Ev all over the back of him like a fat kid on a cupcake. Surfer Ev, who looks to have lost that position because Rexy all over the place. Surfer Ev did very well there to get away from that. New pants required then for the McLaren driver. Let's just ride on board then. So there is a little dip here. You'll see the Viper just gets it all wrong. And great reactions then from Surfer Ev, who in real life does drive minis. That's the origin of his 33 number. Because there was a joke in his thing about 33. But I'm not bothered to go on my phone and have a look at what that was. But for future commentary I'll refer back to it, I'm sure. Let's have a check down at the back then. James Harben has managed to get himself off the very bottom. Flagger's back down there in the other Dodge. You can see he's not really put too much attention into his livery. One thing I do really like about this series is the attention to detail some of these guys put in the liveries. I really do like the McLaren ones. I think that gold and blue sort of contrast works really well. Why is there a dark smoke sticker on there? Get it off. Get it off immediately. Alright, I'm not going to talk about you guys anymore. You're representing the enemy. No, I'm joking. Love you really, Smoker. Let's check on the top 4 then. So Sweaty Keg now down to P4. Sea Trickle has finally got that move made. TC Idol P2 for him so far, but he's hanging on to the back of Mental Never really well. So yeah, the sole Peugeot driver doing a nice job at the minute. He's going to have the attentions of a rampaging Hyundai very soon. The Hyundai seems a very strong car, often overlooked in manufacturer series because, well, it's a Hyundai, but they do seem to be going really well around here, so maybe something to look at in future. They were really good last time out in the hands of Rowdy Burns, who's not here this week. In the hands of Rowdy Burns, that car did exceptionally well. So the top 4 still breaking away, as we just see Surfer Ev smash the hell out of the outside barrier there. It's very easy, it's a very wide track, so it's easy to carry more speed into corners than you think you possibly can. There's a lot of these cars I've screamed down the start finish straight. The field's still very close together. And of course this race a 50-minute endurance race, so we're not going to cover every minute of it. I haven't got the time to do that. We will go through and we'll just see what happened in the race and cover the important bits and bobs. So for the time being, Mental Nev working his way at the top, but we'll see what happens when the pit stops do roll around. So lap 7 now then. Some pit stops have happened already, so you'll see some out of position cars, but there's been a really good battle here brewing between Chand, Marshall and Harben, who have basically been dueling it out for the last couple of laps. The McLaren just seems to have the edge at this minute in time, but he does keep snatching his brakes, which is bringing Marshall and Harben right back into it. And these three have basically been locked together in a 2-battle long duel so far. It's going to be the first one to pull the trigger to go into the pits, really. The one in the best position really has got to be Harben, who in his position can probably save the most fuel. So we'll see how that works out in the pit stops. Meanwhile, we've got Sayrexic and Tricky Tree still battling out for that P5 spot. And you've got Sweaty Keg, Trickle, TC Idol and Mental Nev's top 4 remain unchanged. None of these guys have pitted yet. A couple of the pit stoppers then. Surfer Ev just pitted the end of the last lap actually, so he's doing his outlap now. We got Ibron in the pits, we've got Marshall in the pits, so he's pitted from that barrel. Infinity Decals, aka David Robinson, he's pitted as well. He's just catching up with the back of the pack now. He's just set the fastest lap of the race as well, so he's in his element on the soft tyres and lower fuel amounts. He's just on the back of this battle between the McLaren and the Chevrolet. Other than that though, things remain relatively unchanged. The top guys, I did have a look at TC Idle on board. He was just saving a ton of fuel behind NextLevel. So he was basically using the slipstream. The Peugeot in a straight line is probably the quickest in this. In fact, it is the quickest in this category. I think there's no arguing about that. It's close to between that and the Audi TT, but the Peugeot does have it. So TC Idle at the minute doing a great job, tucked up behind that Supra, and he'll probably get the job done in the pit stop, so he won't have to spend as long in there at all. I do love the sound of that Supra. I do wish I did that survey and got it. I just completely forgot. I hope they release it in general one day. If you're listening, Gran Turismo, please do that, because I would love that car. SimFx is doing a good job in P5 then in that Viper. So SimFx and Tricky Tree are both in big lumpy American V8 cars that have no place on a quaint French mountainside track, but they're doing alright. Chand has managed to break away from the little battle there. Infinity Decals has now managed to get past James Harben. So Harben's now in the mid-22s. Infinity Decals now on lower fuel is in the 19s and only going quicker. So he's wanting to use this time when slower cars are around him. He needs to get through that traffic quickly. Surfrive will be having a very similar strategy. So is Marshall, who's pitted as well. So we did see Sweaty Keg, or no, it was Sea Trickle in the pits. So yeah, there he is. A load of cars now piling into the pits. Sea Trickle with the least amount of fuel out of all of them, so he will lose quite a lot of time in this pit stop. Infinity Decals going through there to start lap number 9. So he's now up to P4, but he pitted a couple of laps earlier, so that may undo itself a little bit later on. I see Trickle in the Hyundai now out in P5, and just like Bathurst, everyone is on slightly different strategies, so we won't really know who's who until the very end of the race, but hopefully we'll get treated to some good racing in between. Talking about Marshall, he's done a good job. I think everyone now has pitted. So the field spread now getting quite large. This midfield battle's actually getting quite juicy. So Chand, Stephen Spencer, Marshall, Harben, SimFx, all in that battle for P7. So there's a little train of cars there, which that could ignite at any moment. And the top guys, I want to say, have separated out a little bit more now. We're waiting to see who's who. The battle between who's going to click first between NextLevel and TC Idle. I don't know what tyres these guys are on. They might be on the softs, they might be on the mediums. We'll see which one of these guys pits first and where that order aligns itself. We're 20 minutes in, so we're approaching the halfway mark now. TC Idle then with the infinite fuel tank in the back of that Peugeot. I think he's just took the passenger seat out and has fitted it with a reserve fuel tank, because he's 10 laps into this race and still hasn't pitted, so he's got a commanding lead now over Sweaty Keg. I'd assume when TC Idle does pit, Sweaty Keg will assume the lead of the race, but he hasn't pitted yet either, so we'll see what happens between those two. NextLevel probably a net leader at this minute in time. We'll just see what happens with the pit stops. A couple of shout outs while I'm doing this. As I record the video, it's the day after the race. It's the Wednesday the 26th, so a happy birthday to this little young chappie, Mr. Duck Lover himself, James Harben. It's his birthday today, so I'm sure he'll be celebrating his 19th with a couple of shandies tonight. Is it his birthday or is it his missus' birthday? I can't remember what he said. Let me go on the Facebook chat and just see. It might be his missus' birthday. Oh yeah, it's his missus' birthday. So happy birthday to Mrs. James Harben. And Mr. Dave Robinson wants me to say hello to his mum. Hello again. So yeah, hello, Dave's mum. Hope you're okay. He's the boss, so I don't really want to start going down the mum joke route, and I'm trying to keep this professional as well, so you know. Anyway, our leaders in the pits. So the awesome Peugeot is now out into P4. So after going 10 laps in, reached the halfway point of the race. So realistically, he can one-stop this. And that will mean that if he started on the softs, he's now going to be on the mediums, which is going to be the slightly slower tyre, but they should have a little bit more durability. I guess we're just going to have to see how that plays out. What will his pace be like, I guess. That is, we're yet to find that out. I'm guessing Infinity Decals is on the softs because of the pace turnaround he's now had since the pit stops. He's comfortably in the 19, so he's a man on form. And Mental Nev, I'm guessing he's on the softs as well. He was taking it pretty steadily in that first stint, so he'll be rocking now. Realistic chance of winning if he can sort his fuel out, but he can possibly make a one-stop work. It's just going to be a bit of a stretch. For most people, this is a two-stop race. So we've got the first stops out of the way. For most of the non-aliens, they can realistically two-stop this, but some of the really good fuel-saving guys, of which you're watching one of them, can probably do a one-stop and get away with it. So that's your order for the time being. The guys in the chat did seem really happy about this race. It was a good one, but I'm actually quite disappointed I missed it. I do like the Croix tracks. This particular layout wasn't one I'd actually driven before. So a little bit of a battle going on between Marshall and Chant. It is. These guys have been stuck together really since the start of the race. Some good racing between these guys as well. I've not seen an ounce of contact or anything between them. I mean, just see Spencer there in the background looking on, hoping these guys have a big accident so he can pick up some positions. Then we do have Ibrin, unfortunately right down at the back. Ibrin was using a lot more fuel than everyone else. I wasn't really concerned about fuel saving in that Viper. So he's down in P12 at the minute. We've got some more pit stoppers then. So Infinity Decals, who's already pitted, is now pitting again. So potentially a free stop strategy for Infinity Decals. Sweaty Keg pitted from... he was in the lead, but we know that was just because he hadn't pitted yet. So he's now on the medium tyres, I guess. So he's now into P5. Good little bit of racing between Surfer F here and Sea Trickle. So McLaren versus Hyundai. Let's just got on board with the McLaren driver. After his brown pants moment earlier on in the race, he will be nervous about following other cars. As I record this, I've just been watching him actually race in another league that the MRC are involved in. This is the GT3 league. And I think Sea Trickle's actually letting Surfer F go here. He is. So Sea Trickle probably playing this quite cute. He might just want to use the McLaren for fuel saving. That might be a good little strategy that Sea Trickle's employing at this point in the race. We'll see how that works out for him. It could work in his favour. He doesn't need to be scraping walls like that though. He really needs to be in the slipstream of the McLaren for that plan to work effectively. TC Idle now back up into P2. Let's see what his pace is like in the next couple of laps. See if we can reel in the Supra up ahead. The Supra we do think has to stop again, but look at that lap he's just set a 2:18.8. An absolutely brilliant lap time from the Supra driver. But yeah, like I say, I think he's going to have to pit again, even if it might just be a bit of a splash and dash. Riding on board the Subaru here of Marshall 2012. We're just going to see if the McLaren can make an attack down into T1. The McLaren backs out of it. I think it's better of it. It's just really good to get a perspective of how a car follows through this tight and twisty sector 1. Full of high-speed circuits. Bit of a flash of the lights there just to try and put him off. Sneaky tactics there from the McLaren driver. But you just see how much the cars do struggle through that left-hander. It sort of dips down into a little sort of dip. Of course it's called a dip, Chris, what are you on about? But you can just see how much more sorted the McLaren is through the corners, even though it locks a rear wheel on the way in. but the Subaru with good lateral grip just able to pull away down the straight then. This is where the McLaren again will come into its own. It's a better straight line car than the Subaru. As the McLaren tucking into the slipstream. Oh, and the McLaren's wiped itself out here. Oh my days. That was a lack of concentration from the McLaren driver. Let's go and have a quick look back at that. So right on board of Ice Chan then. He just seems to give the Subaru a bit of a bump. It untights him and he's just too late into the corner and gets an absolute smash of the wall for good measure. A bit of an unfortunate accident for both cars that. It does unsettle both of them, but Ice Chan definitely came away the worst out of both drivers. So we see here TC Idol has pitted again. I think he might be have gone to the faster compounder tyre. It looks like he just did his medium stint there and he's gone on to the faster tyre now. The unfortunate thing for TC Idol has come out in traffic, so Harben and Robinson up ahead of him. He's going to have to negotiate this traffic quickly if he's to prevent himself losing time to the cars ahead. At the minute, in the top 3 positions, as we see, it is the Viper CJW-Racing just off in the background there. We've got NextLevel leading the way in the Toyota Supra. We've then got a Sweaty Keg in P2 at this minute in time, and Sea Trickle in P3 in the Hyundai. There's what is it, 15 minutes left yet, so there's plenty of time for this to all unfold and change around yet. And I'm betting any amount of money it does do as well. This won't be the finishing order by a long shot. TC Idol then just manages to get past James Harben. James Harben on the inside. Is James going to fight this? No, he backs out of it completely, and the Peugeot driver claims victim number 1. He's going to have a go at the Aston Martin then, and the Aston Martin with good pace. We're coming into a section of track that is quite difficult to make a move on. We've got the end of the bridge then into the S's. The good thing about Croix is normally quite good for overtaking. There's a lot of places where you can realistically make a move around here. Next week we go to Suzuka, and that's going to be noticeably more difficult for the drivers to get moves made on others. Let's just see how TC Idol does this. We'll jump on board the Peugeot driver very quickly then as we come towards the end of lap 15. The Aston Martin just appears to go a little bit deep there. That allows the Peugeot to close up a little bit more on it. The end of the start finish straight into turn 1's probably going to be TC Idol's best position, because then as we go into the first sector it is again quite difficult to make a move on any car through there. Good exits by both drivers then as Infinity Decals steams away. A couple of cars pit from behind. That's James Harben who pitted from P6, and TC Idol isn't closing up that much on Infinity Decals. Maybe he's just biding his time and being a little bit more patient on the back of the Toro Moto as we enter the closing stages of the race. Surf Rev then, kind of on his own at the minute, P6 for him. Pretty sure he's just pitted as well, so he's hopefully going to be going to the end now by the looks of things. James Harben out in P7, so he's not lost too much time. CJW-Racing, we saw whack the wall a minute ago, P8 for him. These two still fighting away. We've still got Chand and Marshall still battling away. Chand's now ahead. He was behind, if you remember, that collision at the wall a lap or so ago. So those positions have swapped. Then we've got Tricky Treat in the very tricky Chevrolet. He's down in P11. It does sound nice, that car, but it just seemed like a pretty bad handful round here. Another car that's a handful is the Viper. I've been piloting that one around this circuit for the time being. Let's jump up to Nev and just see how he's getting on. Quite nicely. He's just about to come towards the end of his 16th lap here. So he's firmly in the 219s now. Those tyres are dropping off in terms of pace a little bit. You get a couple of good laps out of them, then they're not toast, but they do tend to lose half a second a lap there or thereabouts. One guy who is on the pace at the minute is Sweaty Keg, so he's keeping the guys behind honest. Sea Trickle losing him slightly, so he's now coming to the end of his tyre life looking at it, or at least he's on the mediums and struggling, so we might see Sea Trickle back in the pits this lap. He might want to get rid of the mediums, and if he does pit now, he might just get out in front of Surfer Ev. So we'll see, does he come in to get rid of the medium tyres? Yes, that's exactly what he's going to do. So he's going to stick on the set of softs, definitely a lot of fuel as well. So actually TC Idle and Infinity Decals will go past him. We'll see if he comes out in front of Surfer Ev or James Harben then, and TC Idle's now choosing now to pull the trigger, and he makes a lovely move past the Toro Motor, then up to P3 in the podium positions. I'm just wondering now if any of the cars ahead are planning on making pit stops with the 12 minutes or so we've got remaining in this race. Let's have a look. So Sweaty Keg going through, he's good at saving fuel. He's one stopped this, I think, so he pitted on lap 11, so he should be alright, to be fair. The question's going to be if Mental Nev can do anything about it. Sweaty Keg might have to think about his fuel now though, and TC Idle now he's got some clear air, can put his hammer down, try and catch P2. The top two quite close together for the time being. Good result for the Aston Martins so far. They're currently holding P2 and P4, so they're not doing too bad out of this one so far at all. C Trickle after his pit stop, P6, so he has dropped behind Surfer Ev but in front of James Harben. James Harben had a bit of an awful start to the race and struggled to recover, but he's the lead Chevrolet at least, so he can take that one away. And then this battle between Chance and Marshall is still raging on. Looks like Tricky Tree's looking to get onto the back of that as well. So these lot have got some unfinished business. I think that McLaren again locks a wheel. So it seems a bit delicate under braking that car. The Subaru's really close to him now. Is he going to make a move as he come up to the bridge? The Subaru's definitely looking like he might fancy it, and the McLaren goes wide. The Subaru gives him, in fairness to Marshall, gives him absolutely buckets of room on the apex, and it looks like Tricky Tree is going to try and get involved in this now as well. So it's going to be a 3-car duel at the end of the bridge. Marshall suddenly finds himself on the outside. He's got all the work to do. He might lose 2 positions in one. He has. Tricky Tree looks like he's gone a little bit deep, but he should be able to rescue that. And the McLaren just about gets ahead in front of both of them. And we're now into the more high speed sections, so this is where the Subaru's going to struggle anyway. Just jump aboard Marshall's car then as he's following these boys around. These boys will both have the speed advantage on him. He should be able to corner better than both of them. But certainly Chand and Spencer are going to be a lot better in the straight stuff, and we've got a lot of high speed sections about to come up. Let's catch up with the rest of it. Is anyone pitting or thinking about it? I think we've just had Infinity Decals in the pits. We have. So he's splashed and dashed till the end now. He's got to try and get past C Trickle, who came in the lap before. So Aston Martin then lost another couple of positions in the pits. Surfer Ev, good result for Surfer Ev so far. The McLaren going well round here by the looks of things. They're both having quite good races as it stands. So Surfer Ev up to P4, TC Idle P3, chasing down Sweaty Keg. TC Idle just put his fastest lap of the race in, a 2:18.9. Sweaty Keg's in the 2:20s now. So that gap is falling, and with 8 minutes left to go, this one definitely will close up towards the end of the race. Mental Nev just about keeping Sweaty Keg out of his window. And you can see there, you can see the Peugeot in the background then that was coming onto the bridge. TC Idle will have his sights firmly fixed on the back of that Dead Bull up ahead and hoping to make a move by the end of the race. We've got 8 minutes, that's about another 3 or 4 laps, 4 at least, yeah. Yeah, 3 or 4, so he's got enough time. He has just got to keep it consistent now, TC Idle, and not absolutely kill his tyres. So as we enter lap 20, I'm not going to bring the last 5 minutes of the race completely uninterrupted. We'll cover off the order as we see it. So leading the way at the minute is Mental Nev in the Toyota Supra. Then in P2 at the minute we've got Sweaty Keg in the Aston Martin, but he is dropping time to TC Idle. So TC Idle is looking like within the next lap or two he's going to be right in range of that Aston Martin. So we'll keep an eye on that. P4 at the minute, we've got SimFx in the McLaren 650 SGT4. So this is the lemon and lime team. So these guys running quite well today. We've got the other car is a little bit further down, but it's been in battles the entire way. We've got the Toro Morto of Dave Robinson in P5. C Trickle currently holds P6 in the Hyundai. He is chasing down the Aston Martin. James Harben in the big American barge. P7 at the minute, bit of a lonely race for him. He's not really got anyone around him. He has got another American barge behind him in the form of SimFx in P8. Ice Chand, the other McLaren, just set his fastest lap of the race, then P9 for Chand, and he's managed to break away from this little battle that's kicking off now for P10 between Tricky Tree and Marshall. These guys have been dueling out for the last couple of laps. Right at the back at this minute in time, we've got Ibun 420 in the other Viper. So that's your order going into the final couple of laps then. We'll keep an eye. You can just see how much closer. Remember a couple of laps ago we saw Sweaty Keg and TC Idle pretty much at opposite ends of that bridge, and TC Idle's at least halved that gap in the last 2 laps or so. So in another lap he'll be right in range. A good little battle kicking off was Infinity Decals versus C Trickle 575, but the Toro Morto setting its personal best lap time so far. So for the time being he's keeping the Hyundai behind him. Not much doing with James Harben at the minute. What's happening between Marshall and Tricky Tree? Anything? No, Tricky Tree must have had an off because he's ghosted out, and that's normally a sign that something's happened and is away from keyboard. So that promotes Ibun off the back of the grid and now into P11. So not a good outing at all for the American Chevrolet team. They do have a car running in P7, so they are rescuing some points from this event at least. But we'll, they will be licking their wounds as they walk away from this one, no doubt. Let's keep tracks on everyone else. So let's jump on board with the Peugeot. He's really pushing this French machine to its limits again, setting personal best sectors. It's only sector 1, so we can't really judge too much. There's about 4 sectors on this circuit. It's a big long lap, but now we come to the back straight. So this is where the Peugeot comes into its own. He might be getting a whiff of slipstream as well from the back of the Aston Martin up ahead. Sweaty Keg, don't forget, is more than likely heavily fuel saving in that Aston Martin up ahead. TC Idle won't really have to do that, I don't think. He will have saved enough in that first stint to enable him just to push a little bit more in this second one on softs. As you can see then, the Aston Martin struggling through that sector as we enter the bridge for the 21st time of asking. TC Idle again really reeling in the Aston Martin up ahead, and now definitely within slipstream range. So I reckon as the next lap is going to be the final lap, the story for me is, can the Peugeot do it? Can the Peugeot get himself onto the second step of the podium? The news for Mental Nev is this fight is good news for him. He can afford to just take his foot off the gas a little bit, cruise around for a lap, and he should be fine. The guy's behind about, what, 4 or 5 seconds behind him at this point, I want to say. Sweaty Keg's not going slow, he's in the low 220s. But he's obviously managing things at the minute with doing the one-stop strategy. TC Idle's gone slightly differently. He's choosing to run 2 fast soft stints and 1 slower medium stint, which got out of the way sort of in the mid-teen laps. And now that's just afforded him that little bit more leniency just to push this car a little bit more. We're entering the last lap of the race on lap 22. Well, let's see what else is kicking off. There's no other direct battles on track really, unless... No, that's pretty much it. The field spread is pretty huge. Mental Nev now, as the 50-minute mark ticks over, so a lot of guys are going to finish now. So Mental Nev, Sweaty Keg and TC Idle are all going to do this last lap. SimFx has confirmed his 4th place finish. Dave Robinson at P5, thanks for the handbrake, mate, appreciate that. C Trickle in P6 in the Hyundai. James Harben at P7 for James. He He may be better than that because he's finished higher than his teammate. CJW-Racing in the Viper coming to take the checkered flag. Chand in the McLaren, a good busy race for Chand. Marshall, another one who's had a busy time and backs it across the line. Really do appreciate a good handbrake across the line, guys. Ibrid then, who spent most of this time at the back, but he's now come up to P11 as Tricky Tree's just sort of in an auto drive function for now. Right then, so this is where it's at. Can TC Idol do it? Sweaty Keg will defend for all his might. We've got less than half a lap to go. It is Aston versus Peugeot. Normally in a street race that would be a very, very easy argument to settle, but with the balance of performance in Group 4 machinery, the Peugeot has got a straight line speed advantage. Let's just see, can the end of the bridge, are they level? Not quite. The Aston's still just about got a nose ahead. Coming into the S's now, this is pretty much single file, but TC Idol will have a great opportunity down the right hander at the bottom here to make a move. He will set Sweaty Keg up for that. Sweaty Keg's already ahead of the curve, he's defending that on the right hand side. Little bit of door contact between the two. TC Idol just about ahead as he enters the corner. Sweaty Keg goes deep on the brakes. TC Idol's able to get the move made on the outside of the corner. But Sweaty Keg's up the inside line for the next left hand of the final turn, but TC Idol is ahead. Just to give the man the credit he deserves, he crosses the line. Mental Nev, a great performance in the Toyota Supra and a great win for him. And TC Idol, great performance from him as well on the Peugeot. A P2 for him, and the last position on the podium was for Sweaty Keg.